Welcome to the Tenkara Angler Level Line Podcast. My name is Mike Agnetta, and it's great to be back. We haven't done one of these podcasts in quite some time, but I know you're all just so eager to hear us talk for about an hour or so. So I've invited, four of my Tenkara Angler colleagues on tonight to talk destinations, which I think will be a little bit fun. We've got, I'm going to just go left to right on my screen. We've got Bill Robichaux. How you doing, Bill?
Yeah, good. Hi from the driftless area of Wisconsin.
Got Amanda Hoffner.
Hi.
Anthony Naples.
Howdy.
Matt Sment.
Good to see you.
And myself. So, like I mentioned, it's been a little bit since we've done a Tenkara Angler Level Line podcast. We've all been really busy this summer, whether it's been fishing, traveling, working, you name it. So it's been a little bit difficult to get the Avengers together, I guess, for lack of a better term. But Anthony came up with a great idea. There's a lot of Tenkara events that have been scheduled for the fall. There's usually a really robust spring schedule, but there's been a lot that have been scheduled for the fall. So I wanted to run through those real quick. And then Anthony's idea was just to talk about destination fishing in general, maybe highlight some places that you could go Tenkara fishing, and we can each touch on, our experiences with those areas. So I'm going to go down the rundown real quick. A lot of the events that have been announced are in September and October, and I've got a list. That's why I've got my reading glasses on tonight, because I need to read all these notes. But the first one that I have, which is a new one, is the Idaho Tenkara Campout, which is going to be, I guess, somewhat near Boise, Idaho. It's called Baumgartner Campground. And that's going to be September 11th through 14th. And I think that's going to be the first, kind of camp out that's been held in the Northern Rockies. So I think that'll be really cool. I know I'm not able to make it, but I think a couple of you guys are going to go, right? We're planning on it.
Absolutely. Pretty excited about that one. Our friends at Dragon Tail Tenkara are hosting that one. It's going to be, I think, really their first Tenkara event, let alone the first Tenkara camp out in that region. So yeah, we're pretty excited to go. Can't come fast enough.
Totally. Sounds like a super fun experience. The next one up, there's actually a Colorado Tenkara camp out happening. That one you had to register for, and I think it's already filled up, but I'm just kind of putting it on people's awareness. Because if it is successful this year, I'm sure they'll have other ones. So it might be something you want to kind of like mentally bookmark or whatever for maybe 2026. But that's going to be September 26th to 29th. I forget the name of the campground, but I believe it's being run by Jonathan Antunes and Dennis Vanderhouen. Next one up is the Tanuki Boot Camp in Bishop, California. That's September 27th through 28th. And Amanda, I know you've done that one before. Is that one? What are your thoughts on a Tanuki boot camp, real quick?
I've went there for the first time last year. It was the first time, the first time I was in Bishop. It's a great destination for anyone on that Eastern Sierra side. A lot of people come from like 4 to 6 hours out because there's truly nothing in that area in terms of population. So if you're going there, you're either climbing or you're fishing. There's a lot of hiking as well, but it's a great place to fish, and there's golden trout within an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. So it's a really, really cool place to go and hang out.
That's cool.
And Long's always a wackadoo, so it is what it is. It's just go and have a good time.
Sounds like an awesome outdoor location for, folks that just play around in the mountains, right?
Yeah, especially in September, for sure.
Cool. And then the last one that I have on the list is the Western North Carolina Tenkara Camp, which is at the Davidson River Campground right outside Brevard, North Carolina. That's October 3 through 5. And if you're interested in that one and you want to stay at the campground, I'd highly recommend looking into that. It's also prime time for people to be looking at leaves and stuff like that, so that campground kind of fills up fast. But I know they've had that a couple times, and it's usually not a huge camp out, but the people that show up are a real good group and fun to hang out with. I think those are all the ones that I have scheduled. Amanda, you have an instructional session too coming up in August, right? Your Tenkara Quest.
So it's my second time helping David of Hendersonville Outfitters in Western North Carolina. It's about maybe 30 to 45 minutes outside of Brevard. same amount of distance from Asheville, North Carolina. But we filled up pretty quickly the first time. I don't know how many people are signing up this time, but it is so hot here that it's almost like I don't want to learn anything. I barely want to go outside. I'm having the opposite of seasonal depression when, it gets really dark in the winter. And right now I just don't ever want to go outside in South Carolina. So I don't remember the last time I picked up a rod. I've just been working. So, but it's great. It's private water right there with Hendersonville Outfitters. I love having a fly shop outfitter that wants to teach Tenkara, and they invited me to help them. So David basically instructs on the water and I'm more with casting.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so 4 people a day, it's $200 per person, and I think it's like a 4-hour guided trip on some private water.
Well, if that's something you're interested in, that's August 9th and 10th. And I would, I guess the easiest place to find it for our listeners would just be to go to the events page on tenkaraangler.com. We've got it listed with links and things like that to contact Hendersonville Outfitters to sign up if there are open spots left. All right, cool. So Anthony, I'll kind of flip it over to you now. Like I said, this was your idea for us to kind of talk about. So I'll let you introduce and take the lead.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Yeah. So I've been wanting to do this for a while. I think when I think back to when I started fly fishing, it wasn't really how-to books that helped me so much as like where-to books, like guidebooks. That was super helpful. Finding places to fish, right? If you can't find good water and you don't know where to go, like it's hard to have success. So I thought it'd be fun if we could each share somewhere that we like to go. And there's a bunch of us here, so we can't go into a whole lot of detail. But I guess the idea was like, think of it as like, hey, I just went to this cool place. You're telling your friends about it, where to stay, what it's like, that kind of thing. So hopefully we've all got a spot. I don't even know where everyone chose for sure, so it'll be kind of a surprise. I could go first if you want. If someone else wants to volunteer, that's fine too.
You're the MC. You choose.
All right. Well, I don't want to go after Bill. So I know where he went. He went somewhere kind of exciting recently. So, all right. So how about I'll go? I'm going to talk about fishing in central Pennsylvania, and I figured to keep it tight and smaller, I'm just going to talk about State College area, and Spring Creek is kind of what I'm going to talk about. So if you don't know Pennsylvania geography, State College is where Penn State University is. It's right in the middle of the state. And actually, I looked it up to see. So the geographical center of Pennsylvania looks like it's about 100 yards or so off of Spring Creek. It's right there. So right in the middle of the state. So if you're from Pennsylvania, you're probably 3 hours from just about anywhere in the state to get there. You see a lot of anglers coming up from Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey. Spring Creek in the State College area is the main stream right there. It's limestone Spring Creek. And I know for some people that if you're used to fishing mountain streams, it may be a little intimidating to fish a Spring Creek. So I thought that would be a good one to pick just because hopefully I can give you a few pointers on where to fish and how to fish it. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to try to one of the comments a while back on one of our podcasts was that I spoke too quickly. So I'm going to try to be conscious of that and not talk too quickly, but also try to get through my 4 pages of notes I've got here. So you have to forgive me. I have some notes, but I didn't want to forget anything. So like I said, State College is right in the middle of the state. Spring Creek is the main fishery in that area. But if you're in the State College area, you're within half-hour, 40-minute striking distance of other places you might have heard of, like Fishing Creek, the Little Juniata River, the Kishkahillis River, Penns Creek, as well as other smaller streams and stuff. So there are a lot of pretty well-known streams, within striking distance if you're using State College as your base camp. State College and the Bellefonte area as your base of operations would be your 2 places. I figured right away I should mention that if you do plan to go and fish, take a trip to the area, make sure to book lodging ahead of time, because the lodging in that area, if it's a football weekend, you need to be booked a year in advance. So if it's football weekend, rates quadruple, quintuple, so it's ridiculous. Okay, so if you show up and you think you're going to fish and get a hotel, hotels are booked 2-hour radius away from State College on football weekends. So
Right.
avoid
And Ohio State fans shouldn't even show up, right? They can stay
right.
home.
Yeah. So anyway, so make sure you book ahead of time, because that's even campgrounds, any campgrounds, hotels, Airbnbs, anything on football weekends is booked. So just be cognizant of that. Likewise, that's of course in the fall home games. In the spring, you got to watch out for graduation week. Same thing, which is a shame because it's a good fishing time. But again, everything's booked. So just be aware of that. Make sure to book your lodging ahead of time. And then there'll also be random parents' weekends, wrestling tournaments, that kind of thing. So just book ahead if you want to make sure you got some stuff. So if you're looking on Airbnb, you're going to look at State College area and Bellefonte. Those are the places you're going to look for lodging. There's a KOA in Bellefonte. And then the closest state park is Bald Eagle State Park. Again, sort of near Bellefonte, near the lower end of Spring Creek. So that's where you're going to look for your lodging and your base of operations. 2 fly shops in State College. There's the Topahawken Creek Outfitters, TCO, and Fly Fisherman's Paradise. The TCO Outfitters has a great web presence and very updated stream conditions. They seem to update them every day. You can see flow rates, and they'll comment on fishability, water temps, hatches, and that kind of thing. So check out their website if you're looking to go up. There's some stream gauges in the area that you could look for. USGS, if you're into that, you can look at the yearly averages and see where you are. But just call the fly shop and they'll let you know. Though they are spring creeks, it's kind of urban and suburban in the area. So they do, when it rains, they come up quite a bit. So just be aware of that. All right. So Spring Creek itself. Oh, and I just wanted to say, you guys, if you have any questions, please interrupt and ask if if there's anything you want clarification on. Please don't hesitate to interrupt me.
You're on a roll.
So Spring Creek itself, it's about 22 miles long. I would say about half of that, 10, 11 miles, is accessible fishing. Pennsylvania doesn't do a super great job of acquiring access on streams, but on Spring Creek, as it's one of the best streams in the state, they've actually secured a lot of access. It's owned by the Fish Commission. There's a large corridor that goes through a state game land. So there is plenty of access on Spring Creek. So you don't have to worry about showing up and not finding access. You'll see parking lots, with Fish Commission signs. And so access is pretty good. There's going to be some private water intermittently, but you probably got a good 10 or 11 miles. It's not a lot, but I have a place up there, and I feel like after fishing, since I started fly fishing the last 2 years a lot, I still feel like I don't know the stream because it's got a lot of different sections. So plenty of water on Spring Creek for a week even, plenty of water. You're looking at the upper reaches are pretty small. If you're familiar with driftless streams, you're looking at 10, 15 feet across, and the upper end that you have access to. The lower end below Bellefonte gets fairly big for a Pennsylvania trout stream, 50 feet across. If it's high water, you're not going to be able to cross it. It's definitely bigger water. It's a Spring Creek, but it's not. Don't picture like a chalk stream with all the weeds and the placid water. It's a fairly good drop. So similar to what you'd expect, like the streams in the driftless, where you got some good riffles and runs and pools. Not a lot of flat, weedy water. So there is some of that, but not a lot. So you don't have to worry about that too much. As far as like wading gear, I use waist high waders, and they'll get you across the stream, for the most part. You're not going to need chest waders. It's not that big. So let's see. What else about Spring Creek? It is some parts are going to feel kind of suburban. Parts in Bellefonte can be urban, right through town, which I think is kind of cool. You're fishing through this sort of Victorian town, and there's actually below Bellefonte where it's bigger. There's bigger fish and stuff, so that's kind of cool. But that said, the Spring Creek Canyon and other areas will feel quite remote. Like you won't see roads, you won't see houses, so you can get off the beaten path. The Spring Creek Canyon has a trail, 2 or 3 mile trail with no road access. Maybe there's a road that comes down in the middle, but it's kind of walk-in only. So that's kind of cool. Gets a lot of use from walkers and birders and bikers and stuff. But even though it's near a fairly populated area, you can still get out and feel like you're not fishing in people's backyards and things like that. So You don't
Do
have
you
to worry
see
about
many people when you're fishing there?
it. Um,
Also fishing, not just the.
yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So if you go on the weekends, it's a popular stream. Yeah. So if you go on the weekends, you're going to see people, pretty much all year long. If you go, and I was going to talk about the best times to go. If you go when everyone knows the fishing's great, you're going to see, a lot more people for sure. Yep. So but if you spend some time exploring, I'm not going to give away my
So many. It's so long though. It's so big. Yeah.
yeah. So if you spend some time, you'll find spots that aren't so popular. I know places I can go, really not fish with other people. So yeah, and like I wrote about in my recent article, and what I've seen in the driftless and stuff, some people can get real uptight about, oh, someone fished through ahead of me. I find Spring Creek gets hit with so many people. I think it's not quite like out west where you see the trout down below you, using you as a water break. But I think they kind of get used to anglers, and they're not they reset pretty quickly. But so let's see. And like I mentioned, if you're in the area and you do want to range a little further, you can get to Penns Creek, Fishing Creek, the little Juniata, half hour to 45 minutes. And those are all limestone streams, pretty well known, and they're all a little bigger. So you might, you go to Penns Creek, is pushing it for Tenkara water. It's pretty big. Spring Creek is fantastic size for Tenkara, a little bigger than your average driftless streams, but still very Tenkara fishable. So I guess the next thing you might be interested in is gear. So I like zoom rods. So I think it's fairly open as a stream, but you're going to have overhanging trees. So you're going to have spots with some low branches. So I like a zoom rod, like the ice wing, that I can go almost up to 13 feet for the open spots. But when I get under the trees, I can even landing fish, because you're on the bank under the trees. So I like to zoom it down to the low positions when I'm landing fish, so I'm at the rod tip up in the trees. So I wouldn't go smaller than 11-foot rods, and on the lower end, you probably want 12 to 13 feet. 12, if you just have one rod and it's 12 feet, that'll do you. But it's not, you don't want a tiny rod. Fish are small to medium sized fish. You can catch 20-inch plus fish, but they're going to be the rare fish. So you don't have to go and don't expect to catch a bunch of big fish. Most of your fish are going to be, depending on where you go, 8 to 13, 14 inches, in that range. It's all brown trout, wild brown trout. I should add. I think I don't know the current stats, but at certain points, it's known to have the most fish of any stream in Pennsylvania. So it's got a lot of fish when they do the surveys. So it's got a lot of fish. You can go year round. It's a year round fishery, open year round, catch and release. So there was some contamination years ago from a chemical plant, and they shut it down to harvest back then, and it stayed that way. So it's been no harvest for many, many years. So if you go there, you don't have to worry about the season, because it's always open. Likewise with the other ones in the area, there are special regulation waters on most of those streams, and you'll have year-round fishing. But again, check the regulations. I don't want to quote anything here in case things change, but Spring Creek, you're going to be safe year-round. Catch and release. It's all tackle except for a stretch of fly fishing only. The wording was very confusing for a while. If anyone's from Pennsylvania, it was always like a little confusing whether you could use Tenkara in fly fishing waters. I've called the Fish Commission several times, and they always said that you can. So I probably called last year, and that's what they told me. So I don't know if you've ever, when you lived here, Mike, if you ever had that worry, because the wording's kind of vague.
Yeah, I didn't really have the worry, but I did, just on behalf of trying to find out, send an email back in the day to the Boat and Fish Commission or whatever, and they said it was okay, and I clung on to that email for the longest time, but now it's 10, 15 years later, so
so
the validity of that is probably isn't as good anymore.
Yeah, so they used to have some wording, and I think the Euro anglers have gotten a hold of the Fish Commission, and there used to be wording about the length of monofilament you could have. So I checked the regulations today, and I didn't see it. It used to be limited to 15 feet. You had a fly line and 15 feet of monofilament.
Got it.
So if you had a Tenkara line, which is monofilament, you'd have to be careful. But I didn't see that in the regs anymore. So if you're going to use more than, if you're going to use lots of long line in the fly fishing only section, just check the regs and make sure you're okay with the monofilament. But I didn't see it any longer listed. But so that kind of covers what the stream is like, what kind of gear you might want. The trout season in Pennsylvania is, you can usually fish year round, except in stock streams. Once they start stocking them, you can't fish in March because they open the season in April. So generally March is off limits. There's a period there. But so if you're going to fish anywhere else in the spring, just be aware that you got to check the regulations and make sure you're illegal. The out-of-state fishing licenses, you can get season license, a 1 day, 3 day, and 7. But it looks like the 1 day license, you cannot fish the beginning of trout season. It's like you can't fish March and April with that 1 day license. So if you're out of state, you're going to get a 3 or 7 day license. And it looked like they were the 30. I don't know. I don't remember what they were actually. I forgot to write it down. But the other thing to be aware of if you're out of state is in Pennsylvania, you do need to get a trout permit as well, which is pretty common now. So you get your license and a trout permit, and then you'll be legal. Let's see. That kind of covers all that stuff. So the Spring Creek is where I started fly fishing, and I never did really well until I started using certain patterns. It's a productive stream as far as sow bugs and crest bugs and certain mayflies. So going out fishing dry flies in the middle of the day is not going to be super effective. But I found lately that it can be. So I've been doing that a lot lately and catching fish. But if you go to Spring Creek and you really want to, and there's no hatches going on, you want to catch fish, nymphing is going to be the way to go. Like if you really want to have a very productive day. Sure. And you can keep it simple though. On Spring Creek, if you have a waltz worm and a pheasant tail, waltz worm and a pheasant tail in 14, 16, 18, bead heads are weighted. That'll get you by, because of the sow bugs, the scuds, and then the sulfurs are the main larger mayfly that Spring Creek has. So those are kind of like that's I would always have those. As far as best times to fish, Amanda kind of asked about that earlier. Spring Creek being a Spring Creek, temperatures stay pretty good all year long, so you can fish all winter long. If you don't mind fishing in the winter, winter's a great time. A lot less people. So when you can fish nice days in the wintertime, you can have blue and olive hatches in the middle of the winter. So always have some blue and olives with you. And look for, if you got the opportunity to travel and you can kind of wait for nice weather, I wouldn't hesitate to hit nice days in the winter. That'd be a great time to go. Other than that, late April through May is sulfur season, which is fantastic. So the sulfurs are a mayfly, and they hatch for about a month, and you can have great fishing fun for those. So that's a great time to go, but it's going to be the busiest time. So if you go, just know that you're not going to be alone in sort of late April through May. Times to avoid, like I said, football weekends, graduation, and then July, August, early September. You can fish, but you're going to check temperatures, make sure that you're 68 degrees and below for the fish. And you can usually generally fish mornings. And if it's not a really bad year, you can still have some good fishing, So, but just if you're going to go in July, August, make sure you take a thermometer and check the temperatures.
Right.
So I don't want to take too much time. I already took a lot, but I had a lot more stuff here. But that's kind of the one thing I do want to show. If you're going to go there, I'm in the area. This is you can't really see it. My screen isn't
green screening it.
Yeah.
Damn
So the book you want to get is called Keystone Fly Fishing. It's kind of the latest, greatest book for trout fishing, and it's got maps for Spring Creek and the other streams in the area showing all the access points. So that'll really help you. We'll put a link up to it. But it's called Keystone Fly Fishing. You want to get that book. The other reason I wanted to talk about State College and Spring Creek is if you've got a non-fishing spouse or significant other, you're not out in the middle of nowhere. There's, State College is a college town. So imagine kind of taking a hip, cool neighborhood from the city, plopping it down in the middle of nowhere and without the rest of the city. And that's what State College is. It's a small town, lots of restaurants and shops and things like that. So it's a cool place to go. Your spouse can find lots of other, your partner can find lots of stuff to do when you're out fishing. So
Do you have any leads on where I might bump into Joe Humphreys if I'm out there?
Joe Humphreys, the Waffle House. I saw him at the
Waffle House.
Yeah. So the only time I ever ran into him was at the waffle shop. I kind of felt bad because if anyone doesn't know, Joe Humphreys is, he's kind of world famous, but he taught the fly fishing class at Penn State for many years and is very well known and still lives in the area. He must be 90 now. He's getting up there, but I know I'd never had the opportunity to fish with him or meet him in a fishing setting, but I did run into him at the waffle shop and I kind of accosted him. I was like starstruck. He was super nice about it, but so that was kind of funny too. I was just out fishing, right? So I had my Crocs on, and my friend Larry saw the picture. My wife took a picture of me shaking Joe's hand. Larry circled the Crocs and was like, "You only have one chance to make a first impression." So
I'm sure you cropped that out.
Yeah. So that kind of covers it. If anyone has any questions, please, you can email me if you're interested in the area. I know, I'll clue you in and stuff, but so that kind of is the rundown. Yeah. So I just want to encourage people to, check it out. I mean, I don't feel bad talking about it because it's a well-known stream. It's not, there's no spot burning going on. It's pretty famous, but if you're intimidated about it, and know this, you can have a day. One day can be great, the next day can suck, and who knows why. So don't, if you have a terrible day, that happens. So I don't know who wants to go next. Any volunteers?
Matt, you want to go next?
Oh, one last thing. Before I go, I don't think I mentioned this earlier. I would love, while I still have the talk, I still have the attention here. I would love to do this for other places. So if anyone listening or watching us on YouTube would like to share their area with us and teach us about where they fish and give us some, tips and pointers, contact me. I would love to talk with you and do another shorter podcast with other people. So anyway,
That'd be cool.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right, cool. So we're going to switch it up a little bit and talk about a warmwater Tenkara destination.
Ooh.
Or shall we say warm water fixed line fly fishing destination to be precise. So what we're going to talk about real quick is Southwest Wisconsin. It should come as no surprise to any of y'all that I want to talk about fishing in Wisconsin. But we're going to skip over well, not entirely, but we're going to kind of focus on the warm water aspects a little bit. So most people, when they visit the Driftless in Wisconsin, visit the Viroqua area, which is a beautiful little kind of hippie farm town in the middle of nowhere, and it's considered to be the heart of the Driftless. That's where the Driftless Angler, which is the fly shop that is the premier fly shop of the area, is. And it's just, surrounded by streams. About an hour south of there is the Wisconsin River, and then south of that is a lot more driftless water that a lot of people that visit Wisconsin to fish Tenkara don't typically explore. There's some great trout water down there, and I'm totally fine to kick you down some names of some streams for that. But what's really cool about the southwestern part of the state, I think, this part down below the Wisconsin River, is that there's a lot of wadable smallmouth streams down there, and it seems pretty unique. I haven't found. I'm sure that there's smallmouth in rivers and creeks all over the country, and they're native in a lot of waters and stuff. But this kind of unique combination of wadable rivers that are typically, maybe about 2 or 3 times the size of a driftless trout stream. I've not seen that anywhere else in the country at this point. So if anyone else, has a really hot, like wadable smallmouth fishery, let me know. So, Anthony, if you could just help me out and kind of go through the list and prompt me with what information we're looking for.
Yeah, so just kind of base of operations, towns, and
okay,
that kind of thing.
So the base of operations in this area is going to be Dodgeville, Wisconsin. It's going to be kind of the largest population center in the area. It's maybe about an hour west or so of Madison, Wisconsin, so it's pretty accessible, and it's along like state highways and stuff, so it's really pretty easy to get out there. And then once you do, of course, you're getting into more and more farm roads. But down south of Dodgeville is where you really want to look. As far as like a base city, it might also work, but Platteville, Wisconsin is a little college town down there in the area that is on one of the two rivers I'm going to recommend to you. And there's fishable water just literally like minutes outside of it. So the two bases that I would look at would be Dodgeville and Platteville. Dodgeville in particular, if you want to split your time between trout and smallmouth. The smallmouth will be a little bit of a drive south of you from there, but the trout will be not very far at all. And you could literally split your day, get trout up in the morning when it's cool and go do an evening session on smallmouth in the afternoon.
That'd be fun.
So yeah, there's a lot of potential there in that area. And those would be the two bases, would be Platteville and Dodgeville. So what's the next one, Anthony?
So what are the rivers that you're talking about?
Okay, so the two rivers, one is the Platte, either the Platte or the Little Platte, which is in itself a trout stream in its headwaters. But these are both the Platte and the Fever or Galena River are both feeders to the Mississippi. The Fever Galena runs from Wisconsin down into Illinois through the historical city of Galena, which is in itself a really, really cool place to visit. A really unique little old mining town in a part of Illinois that is really unlike the rest of Illinois. It has hills. For one thing, there's elevation differences. So excuse me. You've got the Fever or Galena River in Wisconsin down into Illinois, and you've got the Platte. And then I want to say, as a third, I want to say it's the Grant or something, but I'm kind of spacing out on that. But those two fisheries are miles and miles of water, and in typical Wisconsin fashion, the access is awesome. You can get in and hop in and fish at any bridge as long as you keep your feet wet. So those are the two rivers there that I definitely recommend.
So for, like, I fished, obviously in the driftless trout streams, will you see, are there paid, leased portions on these rivers, like with the trout streams, or? Yes,
you've got fishing access very similar to the trout access in Wisconsin that is, in a lot of cases, sponsored by the Smallmouth Alliance.
Oh, cool.
So they'll have their materials, a little poster that typically talks about the smallmouth there at the turnstile.
Okay.
In a lot of these access points.
Cool.
So yeah, the access is just as good for these wadable smallmouth streams as it is for trout.
So if I was going to go to Wisconsin just for the smallmouth, I know that probably a large period of time where you can fish for them. What would be the time to go? When would you recommend?
I would say, you can get into the whole, trying to nail down like a pre-spawn bite and all that stuff. But I personally think, and partially this is because typically late summer, I like to give the trout a rest. But like July and August and probably into September these days, as we're retaining more and more heat, are probably the key times of the year. Unfortunately, not like, the best trout portions of the year, which is why you'd either want to split your time or make it a separate trip. So yeah, definitely that late summer. And honestly, I think I'd have to look and see when smallmouth closes. I'm not sure if it closes at the same time as trout does or not. I'd have to look into that, but I think you'd be good through September. If not into October, like you are with trout in Wisconsin. Cool. So what's the next?
What kind of I guess look at like gear. What kind of rods would you recommend?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Kind of stuff.
So for Tenkara rods for smallmouth, I think are really kind of an interesting thing. I think your standard 12-foot Tenkara rod in like a 7.3 or a 6.4 is pretty much all you need. I've been able to bring in up to 20-inch smallmouth on
Fella.
like the standard, like Badger Tenkara Classic back in the
Yeah.
day. Like any of your 12-foot standard Tenkara rods will stand up to a good sized bass. And again, I hesitate to make this kind of advice, but it's always kind of like on your own risk tolerance. But when I'm fishing smallmouth bass, I'm typically using 6 or even 8-pound mono as a tippet section. And I still find that breaks when I need it to and allows me to dig in my heels against bigger fish. Beyond that, like I wouldn't go over 8 unless you had a rod that is like specifically designed for big fish and large diameter tippets and stuff like that. As far as tackle goes, you can never go wrong in Wisconsin with a white streamer with a little bit of red on it for smallmouth bass. Throwing that in the water and stripping it across is really money. The other thing that works really good is micro poppers.
Okay.
Just small little poppers. Getting good, throwing those in and getting good drifts with those really drives the bass crazy. And then, like just because like when I had some size 6 past lakes that a friend had tied up before me several years ago, and those worked amazing. The smallmouth really liked that, again, because it just looks like something, foody. But
cool.
Yeah, so another thing I would say is like with smallmouth is the only time that I fish floating line. Like I typically don't use level line for smallmouth. I'll put on a floating line, and I'll use, because I've got more mass in that system to cast with, I'll use typically an 8-foot tippet section, 6 at least, but usually closer to 8 with that as well. So I'm upgunning the mass of the line so I can throw some larger payloads a little easier. And I don't find in this water that stealth is an issue to the point where the floating line creates a lot of problems.
Matt, I was able to check the regs. Basically, for in inland waters that you're talking about, season smallmouth is open all year. It's just that it's catch and release only in March and April. But
Okay,
from the
I
first
see.
Saturday in May through the beginning of March, it's open and you can keep bass if you want. The other 2 months is just catch and release. So you can fish smallmouth every month of the year.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
I've found that, I would say that, like, Mike Lutz and I have found is a better way to put this, that in the cold months, the fish, they take off. And, I've read in DNR reports that some of these bass will travel like 20 to 30 miles between their summer and their winter positions, going up into headwaters for cooler water in the summer and then returning down into the lower parts of systems in the winter. So I don't know how we've never gone after winter like January smallmouth or anything like that. Like, I don't know if that would be, even really possible, if they'd even be there.
I've spent a lot of my time ice fishing on Wisconsin lakes, and you don't catch bass in the winter, at least largemouth bass. You catch pike, bluegills, perch, crappie. Bass seem to go into just some kind of, not quite hibernation, but they are at least largemouth bass. You rarely catch largemouth bass ice fishing, even though they're in the water with the pike and the bluegills and the perch and the walleyes and everything else. You catch all those others, bass seem to shut down in cold water, in my experience, at least from ice fishing.
Well, if anybody
Let's do
out
a
there,
podcast about ice fishing with Tenkara.
I guess we'd have to find someone who does that.
Oh, I was going to say, I think you did a pretty good job, Matt, at covering pretty much all the bases. I don't know if there's anything else you want to talk about. Any other points of interest in the area that people might be interested in while they're there?
Bill's house. If you go to Dodgeville, I'm 15 minutes away.
Is that right? There we go.
I got a guest bedroom. We can have coffee in 15 minutes from Dodgeville.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's a really cool area out there. Bill knows it well, obviously, and there's good trout streams out that way too. You know, if you're looking to head to that area to do a mixed trip or to just explore either of those, you know, sides of the fishery, go ahead, drop me a line or Bill, because he knows the area pretty well too, and we'll hook you up for only 3 easy payments of $19.95.
Excellent. All right, cool. Well, if there's anything else you want to add, Matt, go ahead.
Okay, smallmouth are awesome, and that's my concluding point.
Cool.
So, Amanda.
All right, let's see. So, growing up in Pennsylvania, that was mainly where I fished. I didn't really branch out too far from there. But the next area that I really focused on, because I moved up there with my travel nursing outside of Boston, was New England area. But instead of just doing New England, I'm going to talk about the White Mountains because I've probably fished there, other than Pennsylvania, the most out of my whole fishing career in general. So, if you want to call it a career, but my Tenkara journey. So, as most of you know, a lot of people have attended the White Mountain Tenkara camp out up Route 16. I'm actually going to talk about the road. There's 2 main roads that break up the White Mountains that run across New Hampshire and slightly into Maine. And Route 16 and Dolly Cop Campground is where, well, the Barnes Field Group Campground is where the annual White Mountain Campout is located. I'm actually going to talk about the road east of it. I'm not quite sure of the distance between the roads, but there's mountains everywhere, and most of you have actually fished in the Whites, so you can attest there's mountains everywhere. But if
Totally.
you go up the road that is adjacent to Route 16, which is, drum roll, Route 93, you'll come to Franconia Notch. And I
Okay.
don't know if, Matt, you ventured up that way north and around there, but just Route 93 in itself is so majestic. They have the presidential mountains up there. They have Mount Washington, which is an iconic mountain in the Whites. You'll see bumper stickers, I climbed Mount Washington, or this car climbed Mount Washington, whatever. But right near Franconia is actually where I'm going to talk about. So the river that follows Route 93 is Pemigewasset, and it's a pretty popular river. I think one of the things that I love about the Whites and fishing in the White Mountains, especially that area, is you can fish a longer rod. You can use a 14-foot rod and have huge, beautiful casts, or you can fish up a stream that has a bunch of ripples and runs and pools. And it can really diversify your fishing, and it's very hard to get bored, I think, in the White Mountains because of that. I have found that the rocks aren't as slippery up there, and I haven't fished every stream in the Whites, obviously, but comparatively to the Southern Appalachia, I've found that the rocks are just not as slippery. So that's a fun fact. I do still recommend good footwear, obviously for safety reasons, but for the most part, they're just not, even the ones in the water that look wet, they're just not as slippery.
Mhm.
I'm not saying, full disclosure, don't think you're going to fall, but yeah. So Mike, you agree?
Yeah, it was funny when we were fishing there, a couple of weeks ago for the White Mountains camp out. I think I was telling you, Matt, I don't remember if it was you or not. I was like, my boots this year, I just feel like I'm Mr. Parkour, jumping around from rock to rock without a
Like
care.
Spider-Man.
Whereas in the Smokies or the Southern
Yeah.
Appalachians, I feel like I'd slip and break my neck or whatever. I thought maybe it was because I was wearing Orvis boots and they're from Vermont, and maybe they made them specifically for that area unintentionally. But I totally agree. It's way easier to get around, even though there are lots of boulders. They're not slippery.
Yeah. If anything, you're going to trip over something and
Totally.
crack your knee, not
Yeah.
necessarily slip on something. But so in terms of like equipment for when you're up there, I personally haven't fished there before April or after August. So those are like my summer, spring dates. But the elevation gets pretty good there there's trails with every single blue line basically. So as long as you're on a trail, you can find some water with elevation and keep the trout cool, because that's what they need to be, so they're not too stressed out when you're catching them. But the Pemigewasset, the one that runs up 93, is stocked in some sections. I know if you fish certain streams and rivers up there, you'll get onto some landlocked salmon. There is a campground that I stayed at this past summer or late spring. It's called the Lost River Campground. It's off of the 93 road next to Jacob's Fork. And I think, Matt, I think that's the one that you took my sister out on. I don't know if you remember it. We just Jackman's Brook, I think it was called.
I remember that.
Yep, some of it is stocked, but I took my sister fishing for the first time, and Matt helped her get onto some fish. And it's just a beautiful creek that meanders through the forest, and it's a perfect learning ground, especially just for some upper Appalachia situations, because it is covered, but you can still use a longer rod, 11-foot rod, which is what I mostly fish up there, but it will get tighter, obviously, as you go higher in elevation. But for the most part, you can get away with a 12-foot rod all over this area. But Jackman's Brook is something that's super accessible. Accessible in terms of being able to park. It is a national forest, so you can, as long as there's a pull off, you can pull off anywhere. There's a bunch of pull offs. I do use the Gaia app, and I don't know if anyone else does, but I like to track my little fishing spots and stuff. But
Yeah.
it's pretty good with having accessibility. There aren't too many areas that I would say. Obviously there's freestone streams that go straight up, and tons of waterfalls. It is really scenic. The towns that I've found that are in the White Mountains are super cute. There's a lot to do in them. There's like a mountain town feel with every town that you'll stop at. Cute little bars if you drink. But one of the books that I do recommend is called Squaretail. It's by Bob Mallard. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it does have Spring Creek in it, like Matt was talking about, but it talks all about brook trout. It does mention not only the New Hampshire waters that I'm talking about, but Maine and everything from up and down the Appalachia. But it is a huge resource in terms of where to fish on the creeks and what flies to fish. In terms of flies that I use in the whites, as long as you don't spook the fish or catch them, nymphs. I use a tail tucker nymph everywhere. I usually use a size 14 with everything that I'm fishing with.
Any fly shops you'd recommend in the area?
Yeah, so Steve Mac, I forget his last name.
Steve Angers?
Steve Angers, yes, of North Country Anglers. He is on the Route 16 side in Conway. He's definitely a Tenkara. He has Bill's Tenkara rods in his shop. Red Brook Tenkara rod. So he's a huge Tenkara advocate. Comes to the White Mountain Tenkara camp out every year. And the Conway is actually on the more southern side of the whites, so it's pretty easily accessible when you're going into the whites. He's a really great resource for fishing in the area too.
Yeah. Well, if you were to fly into the area, I know Mike probably did. Where would you fly? You into Boston, or?
I would personally fly into Boston and drive.
That's what I did. I flew into Boston and drove up.
That was the most accessible.
I was there a week after the camp. I just flew right into Manchester.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's nice.
And that was quite easy from Madison. And that saves you a lot of driving time from driving out of Boston, Logan. You can fly.
Oh, that's just south of Concord. Oh, yeah. That's nice.
You can fly into Manchester, New Hampshire, fairly easily. Much smaller, more manageable airport, and you don't have to traverse any of the urban sprawl around Logan and Boston, such as there might be. It's just a lot closer.
Boston traffic. Woo.
Cool.
But yeah, that's about it.
Right.
Jackman's Brook, check it out.
Jackman's Brook. I have to write that one down. I have not fished that one yet.
And the
in my
Lost
travel
River
there.
campground right there, which is maybe 5-minute drive down the road off of that 93. So I think Kingston is the exit name. Anyway, it's right where Matt and I fish, but there's the Lost River right there, and it's super accessible. You literally wake up and you just start catching fish, which is what I did. So it's a lot of fun. I'm not quite sure of the regulations, but I do believe New Hampshire is, I want to say with some rules, they're pretty liberal with stuff. Like, I know they're doing some sketchy stuff with stocking over wild and native brook trout streams that are trying to be cut down. But in terms of their seasons, I think they do shut down for the winter for fishing for brook trout. So, yeah.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah.
You get up there. I lived in Maine for a while, and went to grad school, but I never really fished. I went over to New Hampshire for stuff. I never fished there. So,
Oh yeah, New Hampshire is like the gateway to like everything. As far like you can go over to Vermont, the Green Mountains are right there, and just follow 93 up. Like it's really it's a great area for sure.
thank you. All right, who's next?
Bill.
All right, everybody. Well, I am officially the contributing editor international for Tenkara Angler, so I'll talk about somewhere outside the United States. I just got home about a week ago from some fishing in northern Portugal, and I can recommend it. Our buddy Dave Knoll, who lives near the Driftless area in Minnesota, he fished there last year and kind of got me thinking about it. Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, northern Portugal. The people are fantastic. The scenery is fantastic. The food is incredible. And there's some beautiful native trout fishing there for native browns. The way to do it is book a day or two with a very good fishing guide there, Antonio Rodriguez. If you just Google Minho Fly Fishing, Minho, Minho Fly Fishing. And the best way is book a day or day and a half or day or two with him, and he will sort you out. He's a member of the Portuguese national fly fishing team.
Oh, wow.
He's competed 17 times in the World Fly Fishing Championships, so he knows a thing or two about how to find trout and how to present to trout. And he's guided Tenkara anglers. He's very Tenkara friendly, and it was fantastic. I love going to places and fishing for native trout, and these are native brown trout in the small streams. You can fish the larger rivers like the Minho, which is the border between northern Portugal and Spain. They get Atlantic salmon running up in the fall. They get sea-run brown trout. But I think for Tenkara gear, as I told Antonio, I want to go up to the small mountain stream, so that's where he took me. The base where I stayed, where he had me go, is just wonderful. It's this town, Monção, Moncao, right on the border of Spain. So it's overlooking the Minho River, which is the border between Portugal and Spain. So right on the other side of the river is Spain. And you're in just this wonderful town with just all this cool stuff to see within walking distance to your guest house. There's a really wonderful wine museum. There's fantastic restaurants. I had one fantastic meal, 55 seconds walk from my guest house. The next one was a minute and 10 minutes walk from my guest house. Just like, as I said, it beats the hell out of Culver's, God bless them, in the Driftless area.
Watch it.
So yeah, it was wonderful. The fishing can be challenging. The streams are quite small, closed over with, canopy. I was fishing my Tenkara Angler Outfitters Scout. In fact, I think Matt Smet designed that rod. You had to go pretty short. And the fishing can be challenging because the water is much clearer than in the driftless area. It's crystal clear. But the water is not as fast and rushing as, say, in New Hampshire, White Mountains, or, say, in Switzerland. So the trout can see you from very, very far away. And just figuring out how to get a cast and a presentation to them without spooking them, it's a challenge. It takes some skill, but it's also a lot of fun to try. I took one morning with Antonio. He took me to shallow stretch of the Minho River, which is very, very wide. And there I got out I had a 13-foot rod with me, and you could just kind of shrug off the difficult fishing of the day before. We were looking for brown trout. I didn't find any, but I caught about 30 of a sort of a relative of carp. They call them boga, or the English is naza. It's like a little barbel. A lot of fun. I was just, catching those left and right. It was quite a lot of fun fishing for those in the Minho River. So there's plenty to do for a spouse or a partner you want to go. Northern Portugal is just fantastic. There's wineries to visit. Everywhere you turn, there's a fantastic restaurant. It's interesting cultural things to see.
Where did you fly out of to?
I flew directly into Porto, which is the main city in northern Portugal. You don't have to fly into Lisbon in the south. You can if you want, but I got a flight. I went via Newark Airport. I flew from Madison to Newark and then Newark to Porto. Got out of Porto, went and got a rental car. I could have been in Mansao in like two and a half hours, but I took my time driving up the coast of Portugal and just spectacular beaches, some of them pretty much empty of people. It's a really wild part of the world. All the tourists, southern Portugal down on the Algarve and the south coast, it's full of sunburned Brits and, Americans lying out on the beach. In Mansao, I walked around for 3-4 days. All I heard was Portuguese and Spanish being spoken, with very few exceptions.
Could you get around well with? I mean, I don't know if you know Spanish, but like if you don't know those languages, could you get around with English?
I don't. All you need to learn to say is vino tinto, which is red wine, or vino verde, which is white wine. That's all I needed to know. And the food, I mean, I like to eat as I travel. Maybe some of you picked up on the food in northern Portugal. It's so fantastic. And this is a destination I could encourage you to go if you want to try fishing Tenkara in some place outside the U.S. for the first time, because Portugal is quite inexpensive. It's much cheaper than, other parts of Europe. And you have access to this guide, Antonio Rodriguez. I did try to contact some other guides in the area, just, try somebody different for a day, but got very little response. He's pretty much the only game in town, and he knows what he's doing. So he's worth booking. And what's cool, I love the food in Portugal. You see the history of Portugal in the food. These people are tough. Portugal is, it's smaller than California. It's like, I don't know, the size of Michigan or something. And it's just this little tiny country of farmers and fishermen. They discovered the world. I mean, the Portuguese were the ones who found their way around, the Cape of Good Hope and first got to India. The first circumnavigation of the world was a Portuguese, the Magellan. They didn't fund Columbus's trip. Spain ended up funding it. He tried to get funds out of the Royal House of Portugal. They didn't fund it because they already knew, but they were keeping the information secretly. They knew how to get to India already, sailing in the other direction. They were going to tell Columbus that way, but they're saying, look, you want money to sail west to India? We're not giving you a penny. We already know you can get to they'd already found out like 4 years earlier, you could get to India very easily sailing the other direction. So when you sit down, you have the classic meal in northern Portugal. It's bacalhau, salted cod. These sons of guns, 400 years ago, they were catching cod off the coast of Newfoundland out of these little boats, and they had to salt it to get it back to Portugal. And then everything you're served with, you get rice and potatoes. The Portuguese settled half of South America. We now call it Brazil. And they brought potatoes back, and they're bringing rice back from India and China. So you get both with every meal. Anyway, I'm waxing too lyrically about the fishing. As I said, the fishing's challenging, but the waters are absolutely gorgeous, and you will catch trout, and especially under the guidance of Antonio. He was having me fish mainly a dry dropper that he tied on. He ties an emergent he uses the very fine, supple feathers around the oil gland of a duck, the preen gland. And he ties this thing up, and then he put a little small, kind of like a paragon. It was a little bead head in orange just below it. And I caught trout on that. I went fishing on one of the streams later without him, and I just thought, I'm going to make this easy. Matt, I tied on a past lake. I had as many tapes on that as I did the rig that Antonio rigged up for me.
Worldwide, baby, worldwide.
So I would encourage you, because what's easy for us Tenkara anglers, it's very easy to travel. Our rod's fitted to a suitcase. If you decide to go to northern Portugal, it's something I learned that Antonio hadn't advised me of. I would take felt-soled boots. Because it's a fairly warm Mediterranean climate, these are some of the slipperiest stream rocks I've ever experienced. They all have this patina of algae, and I wish I'd had. You don't need to pack waders. It's warm enough you can wet wade. The coldest water temperature I measured was 68 degrees. But bring some felt-soled wet wading boots or some boots with cleats on them. It was a little bit dicey sometimes with the footwear I had. But yeah, I think that covers it. Yeah, in addition to native trout, they have a native wine grape up there, the Albarino, and there's an entire museum devoted to the Albarino grape. It makes a fantastic dry white wine, which I drank a bit of with a lot of the salted cod. The seasons, you have to be a little bit careful. Up in the small mountain streams, the season closes at the end of July. So you can't put a trip off there for Tenkara in the mountains till like September when the weather's a bit cooler. The seasons are closed by September. So you have a fairly narrow window. I think it's from like April to the end of July, possibly the end of August in some of the waters. But you can find very simple but fine lodging for $60 a night. I mean, I was staying at these places with a fantastic full breakfast, cheaper than I could find the cheapest motel around Viroqua. So you can travel there fairly inexpensively. And man, do you eat well. One of the hotels I got, breakfast was included. I counted with breakfast, they served 9 different homemade cakes and tarts were on the table as part of the breakfast. 9.
Yes, please.
All different types.
What?
Anyway, have fun. And if the fishing sucks, the eating is great, not to worry.
Real.
Anthony, did I miss anything? Any other?
One thing I would ask is about like access. So are there public waters? Is it club waters? How's that work?
It's a mix of both. And that was the benefit of hiring the guide, Antonio Rodriguez. He handled all of this. One of the stretches we fished, it is owned by sort of a fishing club. And we went to one place in town and he bought us a day permit for a 5-kilometer stretch of water for €6. That's like $7, which means that day we were the only ones allowed to fish that 5-kilometer stretch.
Oh, that's
of
cool.
water. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you need his help in figuring that out. But other streams, the posting seems to be quite good. At the bridges, it'll say in Portuguese. You got to figure out, if you speak English, you can actually read and understand a lot of Portuguese. It's very closely related to English, at least in the vocabulary. And you could see like reserved water, location number by permit only. Some of the bridges had no signs like that, and you can get out and fish them. So, yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, I loved it. I love Portugal in general. Oh, and one more tip. If you go, this is absolutely mandatory. If you decide to fish in Portugal, first get this book and read it. It's by a fly fisherman, Datus Proper. This one he lived in Portugal for quite a while and fly fished it. And he wrote a book called The Last Old Place, A Search Through Portugal, published in 1992. He's just a very keen observer of natural history and culture. And he also talks about fly fishing and pursuing trout in Portugal. So get this book and read it before you go. You can find it on like used book websites and so forth.
Very cool.
Thank you, Bill.
All right. Obrigado.
All right. So I guess I'll close it out. I don't know how I follow that, by the way.
I was after that.
Yeah, I was pondering taking you all to Tennessee or Colorado or Oregon, but instead we're going to go to North Georgia.
Cool.
I fish there a lot. I probably know the most about it. Maybe outside of the Smoky Mountains, I fish there a lot too. But people don't really think of Georgia as a trout destination just natively. They usually think, Georgia's too south to have trout. It's probably bass.
Right.
And it is. There's great bass fishing all up and down the state. But where I'm going to take you today, it's north of Atlanta, maybe an hour or so, an hour and a half. It's kind of near the North Carolina border. It's called Blue Ridge, Georgia. And Blue Ridge, Georgia is kind of interesting to me. Number one, it is definitely what I would consider a trout town. There is just as you go through it, things are themed as trout. They actually have a trout and outdoors festival. I think it's in April, where it's just one of those cool outdoor festivals where there's mountain biking and fly fishing and things like that. They have 2 fly shops there. They have the Cohutta Fishing Company and the Toccoa River Outfitters. And something that's really cool if you're there, if you have the time and they're open, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of oyster bamboo fly rods, but it's a company that's there. It's a small shop, but they basically make bamboo fly rods and sell them. And you can actually register to take classes there to do like a rod building class if you want. But their little showroom is like immaculate. It's like very high end and just really cool to walk through. So it's definitely what I would consider, a trout town and worth visiting. The best times to visit are, not unlike kind of what you were talking about, Anthony. Like you can actually fish for trout in Georgia year round, but we are in the mountains, so it does get cold in the wintertime, right? Like it will snow up there and it will be 30 degrees or whatever.
Yeah.
So, if you're going to go in the winter, if you're going to go in February or March or something like that, you're probably going to need waders. But if you're going to go in the summer, you can definitely wet wade. There's no issues, with that spring, summer, fall, you can wet wade. But you can fish year round there for trout. There are different types of regulations on the various waters. They do have delayed harvest. They do have, catch and release specifically, like this one place that I like to fish in one of the wildlife management areas. It's catch and release only under 16 inches. And I'll tell you, if you catch a 16-inch fish there, that's probably pretty rare. So it's catch and release only, for all intents and purposes, all year round. So you do need to be aware of what the regulations are, when you fish in Georgia, outside of Blue Ridge. Couple other notes that I have: they do stock the snot out of the water up there. There are opportunities for wild. I won't necessarily say native fish. There are native brook trout, but they're becoming few and far between. You really have to know where to find them. So really what you'll run into if you're going to fish for wild trout are naturalized rainbows. There are lots of places where, they don't stock anymore, but, the rainbow trout has kind of become the unofficial native trout of the Southeast, for better or for worse. But you'll find big rainbows, big browns as well. They stock a lot of the water, and a lot of the waters are private. You'll find that a lot, that there's, I won't say access issues. There's plenty of places where there's public access. But if you ever search for North Georgia trout fishing online and you see people holding up these giant fish, they're usually stocked fish, or maybe pet fish, if you want to call them that, from, private waters that either, fly shops or guides, have access to, or maybe resorts, things like that. Probably the most popular, or most well-known body of water up there is the Tekoa River. That's a tailwater that comes out of, the Blue Ridge. I think it's Blue Ridge Lake. But that is big water. I mean, that is if you're going to get a guide, they're going to put you in a drift boat, and you're going to boat down, and you're going to catch big browns and rainbows and things like that. It's not necessarily what I would call stereotypical Tenkara water. Although there are a couple access points, like public access points, where you can go out and kind of fish in the shoals. It's wadeable. A couple of the places that I just noted for people that are interested in that. There's Horseshoe Bend Park, which is not too far downstream from, where the water release is. It's a big picnic area, but there's shoals and things like that. People also drop in boats and stuff there. And then there's Sandy Bottoms Recreation Area, and then the Deep Hole Recreation Area. The latter of the two has camping, that you basically would have to reserve. It's not just you first come, first serve. You do it through, whatever it is, the recreation.gov or org or whatever that is. Some other, well-known places in the area: Jack's River. It's a little bit of a wilderness river. Cooper Creek. I like to fish in the Blue Ridge Wildlife Management area. I won't necessarily spot burn the creeks, but you could probably figure it out. It's a very popular place because the Appalachian Trail also goes through that WMA. So you'll see a lot of people back there, but they won't necessarily be fishing. They'll be heading to the trailhead to section hike that part of the trail. What else do I got? I guess if you are going to go to Blue Ridge, there is this kind of Main Street and stuff like that. So if you're into the touristy Main Street and shopping, they do have a small one of those. I love to eat Mexican food when I go on fishing trips. So there's this place called Sabor a Puebla, which is a totally nondescript, it's next to a bowling alley. You might not even realize it's a Mexican restaurant, but go there. If you've been fishing all day and you want cold beer and, whatever, some beans and rice and, whatever, it's a great place. I definitely, check that out. things that you can do or things that your significant other can do while you're out fishing if they're not going to go with you. You know, it's kind of mountain country and farmland country, so there's lots of orchards. So think of like those places where you can go pick apples or, you know, do that sort of thing. There's lots of waterfalls. So there's like waterfall viewing opportunities. There's a scenic railway that you can hop on, and it basically takes like a 20-mile round trip in and out of Blue Ridge along the Toccoa River, which is kind of neat. And there is a Bigfoot museum, which I have to mention. It's just south of Blue Ridge, but in Cherry Log, I believe is the actual town, is the Bigfoot museum. So what I would recommend is if you're interested in the area, if you want to look up online, you can obviously search it. Again, results may vary, but I think if you were to put in either of those two fly shops, Cohutta Fishing or Toccoa River Outfitters, you get leads or, you know, opportunities, guys. I don't know if they're Tenkara friendly or not, to be honest with you. I've always just gone in there just to kind of check them out. I didn't like wave around my Tenkara rods and say, you know, hey, look at me. But there are Facebook groups. I think there's a North Georgia Tenkara Fishing Facebook group. And then as far as guidebooks go, I would recommend probably the best ones. I don't know if this one's still in print. It's Trout Fishing in North Georgia. It's by Jimmy Jacobs. And then he put out a book more recently called Fly Fishing the Peach State, or Fly Fishing for Peach State Trout. And he's probably one of the best writers, I guess, in terms of like those guidebooks, you know, in the Southeast. He does lots of them, really specializes in Georgia. An interesting fact, his son, Zane, which I think you know, Amanda,
Zane.
right?
Yeah.
He's a Tenkara fisher. And he's been trying to get his father to fish Tenkara. I think he finally got him to break like maybe last year or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But Zane does YouTube videos. I forget what his channel is. It's like maybe like Zane's gone fishing or something like whatever.
Like Zane does stuff or something like that.
Anyway,
That's
the reason why I
fun.
bring it up is he goes to all these creeks that I'm talking about, names them by name, which could be a good or a bad thing depending on how you're looking at it. And, you know, you can actually like go along with him on a day of fishing to get an idea if it's water you would like or not. Georgia. All over North Georgia. Like he goes, like he's not really spot burning because I'm sure all those creeks are in this book. But, you know, if you want to get an idea of what the water looks like, you know, that's a good idea. As far as gear, I didn't mention gear. Most of what I fish, I don't fish the Toccoa because it's just way too big. It's not what I'm going up there for. But I like to fish like an 11-foot rod. That's usually my standard gear up there. If I'm going to bring a zoom rod, you know, I'll bring one that at longest is about 11, but goes down a little bit shorter in case you get into rhododendron tunnels or just things like that. You know, if you're familiar with fishing like the Smokies or something like that, it's very similar in terms of like the waterways. It's all freestones, you know, that sort of thing. And then for flies, you can fish probably whatever you want. I fish my Confidence Kabari, you know, I have my road cone or just a random futsu that I like to fish. You can also nymph, all that stuff. Dry dropper is very popular back there with a lot of the fly anglers. So, you know, you can fish pretty much whatever you want. But yeah, I definitely recommend Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's just a cool place. And it is definitely on the trouty side of mountain towns.
Cool. Thank you, Mike. I was very interested to hear about that. That's on my radar. I'd like to get down there. And then, this may not be in the exact same area, but where's that town? It's like a German or
Helen. So if you're going north of Atlanta, you can kind of bear west or bear east a little bit. If you go northeast, one of the main trout town up there is Helen, Georgia. And you're right. It's like a Bavarian themed town. They actually have an Oktoberfest every year and stuff like that. And that
the Cabbage Patch doll factory is right there too.
It is. It's right on the way, like the old school Cabbage Patch dolls. And if I remember right, what is it? The Chattahoochee goes right through Helen. And it's kind of cool. Like if you're into like that whole Bavarian scene, there's like restaurants that are situated right along the Chattahoochee where you can have one of those big giant beers and whatever and just, you know, sit back and relax. There's lots of different fishing back in around there too. But you know, just because I covered Blue Ridge. Yeah.
I will say, is there a fly shop near Helen?
So, yeah, it's Unicoi, I think.
Because so they I don't know if they were purposefully Tenkara friendly or they just felt sorry for me because it was the end of the day. But they have private water, and they're at the Fly Show in Atlanta every year.
Got
and I
it.
ended up meeting them and telling them, oh, yeah, I'm with Tanuki booth, whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah, you should come hang out, whatever. So I went, but it was the end of the day. It was like 4
Mhm.
o'clock. And they're like, you can go fish for free with your Tenkara rod, whatever. So I fished their private water and
Oh,
got
that's
onto
awesome.
a nice big boat. It like broke off because it was too big.
Uh,
I was like, oh, you
Yeah,
know.
if I remember right, like as you're going into Helen, that main road, they're slightly before that.
But it's
Yeah.
really, they were really nice. So if you ever want to go into Unicoi, they were fine, whatever, super friendly.
Cool.
So yeah,
You fished in North Georgia before, Amanda, right? Did I miss anything? Anything else worth mentioning?
I actually really, I think it's a gem on the
Yeah.
Appalachia because I don't see too many. I don't know if you can attest to this too. I don't see anyone fishing, and where I'm fishing in the mountains.
Yeah, if you're going to go blue lining, you're not going to find other
Yeah,
people
it's
for the
great.
most part. They're all like the trout fishers are, you know, a lot of spin fishers basically chasing
Yeah.
the stocking trucks and things like that.
Yeah. And if you go to Zane's YouTube, you'll definitely find some native brook trout streams on his. He drops their names, so I know what they are, but I'm not gonna do it right now. But you can find some native brookies, North Georgia, like in maybe 30 minutes from the South Carolina border, like super easy. So
Yeah, it's fun. It's worth checking out if you're in the Southeast. I don't know if it's, you know, fly there intentionally to go fish North Georgia, but if you're, you know, whatever, if you're in the area, if you're in Atlanta and you want to sneak up for a little bit, like it's definitely worth checking out if you're a Tenkara
yeah, like
angler or fly
how far
fisher.
is it? Like you said, an hour?
It depends on which city you're going to go to, but it's like
Oh,
an
yeah,
hour,
it's
an hour and a half. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
really
it's
not
not bad
bad.
at all if you happen to be in Atlanta.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys. I'm glad. I think it turned out really. Y'all did a great job, and I really want to hit most of these places, all of them. So cool. Thank you for indulging my interest, and hopefully we can get some listeners or some viewers that might be interested in sharing too, because I think that would be really cool. So,
Absolutely. Pennsylvania to Portugal and all points in between, right?
yeah.
Well, awesome. Is there anything else anybody wanted to go over, or should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I guess we could wrap it up. Huh?
Right.
We're getting pretty long. So
People like to listen. Hour 20, that's nothing.
And I think it was fun hearing where everyone fishes, and it's a really good podcast, I think.
Yeah.
I would listen to it. I don't listen to too many podcasts, but I would listen to it even if I wasn't speaking right now. So-
Well, like Anthony said, if there's anybody out here listening to this or watching this or whatever you're doing on it, and you have somewhere that you want to suggest or share some, you know, intel in the comments or on our website, we'd love to have it do it. You know, maybe we could have you on a podcast to talk about, you know, your favorite fishing destination. We didn't talk about very many places out west. We thought Tom might make it tonight and he might talk about there. So there's a whole half of the country. If you're talking the US that we didn't talk about today. Yeah.
And if you guys, if you enjoyed listening to it, I'm sure we could do it again. You know, I'm sure we could all pick another spot that we've been to and kind of do it again. I think it's really cool. I like hearing about different places to fish. So I had fun.
And Mike, I will be submitting my expense receipts to you shortly.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds good.
Awesome.
What is it? What was the word for white wine or red wine? It's just going to be over and over and over.
Vino Bianco is white wine. Vino Tinto is red wine.
Yeah. Well, cool. With that said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, we apologize for kind of taking a little bit of a hiatus, but it was fun to be back and, doing the podcast. So if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. And until the next time, talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
See you in
Bye.
Portugal.
Yeah.